Hi Hobartville Primary School. Thank you so much for reading Looking for Lily. It was so awesome to get all of your video messages. I'm going to try and answer them all for you now. In primary school, I loved writing stories. I'd write little books and staple them together and fill them with pictures and stories. And I'd put them in the classroom library and other kids would read them and tell me how great my stories were. But when I went to high school, I forgot. I got lost in all of the other classes that you do at high school, and I forgot that I actually really love writing stories. So when I left high school, I went and did something else. And then I went to TAFE, and then I went to university and I did something else. And it wasn't until I had time as an adult and thought about what I really loved doing that I realized I love writing stories. So I started writing again in my late 30s. I was in a fairy shop one day and I saw these tiny little fairies and I thought, imagine being that little. What would life be like? And I thought, I could write a story about that. I could write a story about being small. And then as I started to write my idea, I started to think about, well, how can I make this exciting and fun? So then I thought, maybe I could give them some magical powers. And then I thought, there needs to be a problem to be solved. So what problem would happen to something this small? And straight away I thought, they'd get taken and eaten, but I can't have them eaten because that would be the end of the story. So then I thought, well, maybe they're not eaten. Maybe something else happens. Maybe there's a reason why one of them's been taken. And that was how I started working out the story for Looking for Lily. Just thinking about tiny little things and what would happen in nature. Looking for Lily took 5 years to write. It took 4 years to actually write the story and show some people and make changes. And then it took 1 year to have it, the last edit done, and then the illustrations drawn, and then it laid out on a computer to make a book. And then I had to find a printer, and I wanted to find somebody that printed on paper that was ethically sourced. Now that means the paper comes from trees that are replanted. I didn't want to print my book on paper that just had trees being cut down and not returned. So that took 5 years. Nobody's ever asked me who my favourite character is in Looking for Lily. I think my favourite character is Winston, the old fish. The reason why he's my favourite character is because in the beginning, I actually wrote the story from his point of view. So it wasn't Talia telling the story at all. It was Winston telling the story. But I was told that kids your age don't like to read books that are told by grandparents. So I had to change it. I had to make the book come from one of the sprites. But Winston is by far my favourite character, and he is so funny. Some of the things that I left out of the book, some of his jokes were hilarious. But I had to take them out because maybe they weren't right or they didn't fit at the time. So hopefully I get to use them in book number 2. Why is Winston called Winston? Well, that's a funny story. I was pregnant with number 2 baby when I was finishing off Looking for Lily, and I decided to call my baby in the belly Winston. It was a funny name and everybody laughed a lot when I used to point at my big round belly and say, this is Winston. So obviously I didn't call the baby Winston when he came out. I called him something else. But it was such a funny name and everybody loved it so much that I decided to call the fish in Looking for Lily Winston. Why does Winston wear glasses? Well, in the story, he finds a pair at the bottom of the dam. So somebody at some point has dropped their glasses into the dam. Unlucky for Winston, because he can't see very well, he found them and he scooped them up and put them on his face. And that's why he wears glasses. But as you know, in Looking for Lily, they go missing. And that's what starts Winston's adventure. And that's how he connects up with the sprites. Because he's looking for his glasses. But he calls them spectacles. Because that's what all old fish call their glasses. One thing I've learned is you don't have to be a good speller to be a good writer. You just need to have good ideas. and you need to think of creative ways to solve problems and how to make interesting characters. So if you can think up good stories, you can just write. You can type into a computer and put your story down. And if your words are spelt wrong, eventually someone will pick it up, either the spell checker on the computer, or when you finished your story, you give it to an editor. And it's the editor's job to fix all of the things that you haven't spelt properly. So if you're not a good speller, it doesn't mean you can't be a good storyteller. Now, I've written probably 1/3 of Looking for Lily #2, but I know what happens in my head. So I've just got to finish writing it, and then I have to go through the whole process again of editing it and finding an illustrator to draw it and then printing it. So hopefully Looking for Lily could be ready. I thought it would be this year, but it's taking longer, so maybe next year. I'm working on a new book. It's not about sprites. It's a book about a little girl who needs to learn how to whistle really quickly because she's got a whistle at the end of year assembly. And it's about her making a plan, trying to learn how to whistle. I don't know if she whistles. I don't know, you'd have to read the book. At the moment, the illustrator is drawing pictures for me, and the book is just about ready to be released. I'm hoping to sell it in August, just before book week. So yeah, if you're interested and you want to read it, I'm sure Mr. Morton can let me know to send you a copy and you can have a read. Now, Hobartville Primary School, I have a question for you. What do you think happens in Looking for Lily #2? If you were me and you were the author, what problem would you write about? And how would you solve the problem? And what characters would do what? Have a think and then let me know. And maybe I can include your idea in Looking for Lily #2. Thanks so much for reading Looking for Lily. It's really lovely to receive your videos. Thank you for making the time to send them to me. Bye.